It didn't make headlines the way you'd expect. No official statement, no dramatic announcement, just a quiet shift. And suddenly, she was no longer part of it. Princess Leonor, the future Queen of Spain, removed from a project that many believed was crucial to her development. No explanation, no clarity, just silence. And when something this important happens quietly, it usually means there's more to the story than anyone is willing to admit. Before everything changed, this project wasn't just another royal obligation. It was seen as a defining step, a carefully structured environment designed to shape Leonor's public identity, her leadership style, her confidence, her connection with people. Whether it was a military phase, an academic initiative, or a diplomatic exposure program. One thing is clear, it mattered, because every move in her life is intentional, planned, strategic, measured. So removing her from something like this, that doesn't happen by accident. At first, the signs were subtle. A delayed appearance, a change in schedule, an absence that didn't quite make sense. Then, confirmation. She was no longer involved. No detailed explanation was offered. And that's when the speculation began. Because in royal circles, silence is never empty. It's controlled. Publicly, moments like this are often framed in neutral terms. Adjustment, restructuring, timing, words that sound calm, but reveal nothing. But behind those words, there are always deeper dynamics. Internal discussions, strategic decisions, and sometimes, disagreements. And when you look closely at the timing of Leonor's removal, one question becomes unavoidable. Was this really about the project? Or was it about her? King Felipe VI has always been clear about one thing. Preparation is non-negotiable. Every step Leonor takes must align with the long-term stability of the monarchy. There is no room for uncertainty, no space for misalignment. So if something, or someone, begins to fall outside that structure, decisions are made, quickly, quietly, firmly. Here's where the situation becomes more complex. Because removal doesn't always mean failure. Sometimes, it means conflict. A difference in direction, a disagreement in approach, a moment where expectations and personal perspective no longer align. And for someone like Leonor, who is growing, evolving, and beginning to define her own identity, that kind of tension is almost inevitable. This is the question many people are asking. Did she step away, or was she pushed out? Because there's a difference, a major one. If it was her choice, then it suggests a level of agency, a willingness to redirect her path. But if it wasn't, then it points to something far more controlled, a decision made above her, a decision she had to accept. Being the future queen isn't just a title, it's a framework, a system that defines what is acceptable and what isn't. And within that system, deviation is not easily tolerated. Every action must reinforce stability. Every decision must protect the institution. So if a project begins to raise questions, internally or externally, the response is swift, because uncertainty is risk. Once again, silence. Princess Leonor did not publicly react. No statement, no visible frustration, just composure. But composure doesn't mean indifference. It often means discipline, the kind required to navigate situations where speaking freely is not an option. When you look at this moment in isolation, it may seem like a simple adjustment. But when placed alongside other recent developments, a pattern begins to form. Moments of pressure, moments of correction, moments where direction is firmly reestablished. And together, they tell a story, not of chaos, but of control. The Spanish monarchy operates on perception. Stability must be seen, confidence must be projected. So any situation that risks creating doubt, even internally, is handled with precision. Removing Leonor from a project may not just have been about performance, but about maintaining a consistent image. But beyond strategy and structure, there's a person, a young woman navigating a life that leaves very little room for personal error. Trying to grow, while being guided, sometimes firmly, into a role that doesn't allow much deviation. And moments like this, they leave an impact, even if that impact is never publicly acknowledged. So what does this removal actually change? On the surface, very little. Her path remains the same. Her role is unchanged. But internally, it may shift everything, because moments like this define how someone approaches the future. With compliance, with caution, or with quiet determination to adapt. This isn't just about one project. It's about the system surrounding it. A system designed to produce certainty, to eliminate unpredictability, and to ensure that when the time comes, there are no doubts about who is ready. In many ways, Leonor's world is one of the most controlled environments imaginable. Every experience is curated, every opportunity evaluated, so when something changes unexpectedly, it's rarely random, it's intentional. The word, expelled, sounds dramatic, final, absolute, but in this context, it may not mean exclusion forever. It may mean correction, a recalibration of direction, a decision to step back, so something else can be reinforced. To the public, this may appear as a minor shift. But privately, these are the moments that carry the most weight. Because they involve decisions that shape identity, not just image. One of the most powerful tools in situations like this is silence. No explanation means no contradiction. No detail means no debate. And in that silence, control is maintained. The truth is, the full story may never be revealed. Because not everything in royal life is meant to be understood publicly. Some decisions remain behind closed doors. Not because they're simple, but because they're complicated. Despite everything, Leonor's path is still moving forward. This moment doesn't stop her. It shapes her, refines her, prepares her, perhaps in ways that are not immediately visible. Being forced out may not be the end of something. It may be the beginning of a different kind of preparation. One that is quieter, stricter, more controlled. And somewhere within that process, Princess Leonor continues to move forward. Not just as a princess, but as someone being shaped, moment by moment, into a future she didn't entirely choose, but must fully embrace. After a removal like this, something resets. Not publicly, not visibly, but internally, everything is recalibrated. For Princess Leonor, this likely wasn't just about stepping away from a project. It was about understanding the boundaries more clearly than ever before. What is allowed, what is expected, and what happens when those lines are approached too closely. Because once a correction is made, it doesn't need to be repeated. From that point forward, something subtle often changes in people placed under this level of scrutiny. They become more careful, more aware of how their actions might be interpreted, more precise in how they present themselves. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. Recognition that every decision carries weight far beyond the moment. And for Leonor, this could mean stepping into a more controlled version of herself. One that aligns perfectly with expectations. No one in her position navigates these moments alone. There are advisors, strategists, senior figures who understand the system inside out. And when something like this happens, those voices become louder, more involved, more directive, because ensuring stability isn't just a priority, it's a responsibility shared by everyone around her. And sometimes, that means reinforcing decisions that may not feel personal, but are deeply institutional. What's equally important in moments like this is what doesn't happen afterward. No public criticism, no visible tension, which suggests one thing: the decision achieved its purpose. For King Felipe VI, silence after action often signals closure. Not indifference, but confirmation that the situation has been corrected, and the path is now back on track. The next phase isn't about making noise. It's about rebuilding, quietly, reinforcing discipline, refining presence, strengthening alignment with the role ahead. And all of this happens without public acknowledgement. Because the goal isn't to explain the shift. It's to make sure it works. Moments like this don't fade. They stay, not as something negative, but as something defining, a reference point, a reminder of how quickly things can change, and how firmly they can be adjusted. For Leonor, this may become one of those internal markers, a moment she looks back on when making future decisions. But there's a cost to this level of precision. When every move is calculated, spontaneity disappears. When every decision is evaluated, freedom becomes limited. And while that creates stability, it also creates pressure, the kind that doesn't always show on the surface, but is always present beneath it. To the outside world, everything may now appear perfectly stable, smooth, controlled, unquestioned. But behind that image, the reality is far more complex. Because maintaining confidence publicly often requires navigating challenges privately. And this situation is likely one of them. What changes most after an experience like this is awareness, a deeper understanding of the system, a clearer sense of where the limits are, and perhaps most importantly, a recognition that every step forward must be intentional. Because in her position, there are no small decisions, only visible ones, and unseen consequences. Years from now, moments like this may not be remembered publicly. They won't appear in official speeches or historical summaries. But they will matter, because they shape how a future queen thinks, how she leads, how she balances expectation with personal judgment, and how she navigates pressure when it inevitably returns. Being forced out wasn't just about leaving something behind. It was about being guided firmly back into place. And while the world may never know the full story, the impact of that moment is already there. Quiet, unseen, but lasting. Because for Princess Leonor, this wasn't just a change in direction. It was a reminder of exactly where she stands, and everything that comes with it.